Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I don't think anyone here denies the fact that Russia attempted to meddle in the elections. It really is not the issue. They've done so in the past. They attempted in 2016. I don't have any reason to believe they won't attempt it again in 2018 and what's coming up. I think what concerns me when we talk about the witch hunt, it involves over a year of an investigation by Mueller where not one bit of evidence has come forth that President Trump colluded with the Russians to try to influence the election. And, you know, when we're, Mr. Chairman, dealing with all of this, this has been going on for a long time. The Obama administration knew back it was as early as 2014 that they were meddling, and he did nothing about it. So this is something that the issue of meddling is one thing. The issue of the President colluding is another, and that is indeed a witch hunt. I want to go back to the topic here today. Our whole election system involves states, not individual states. We've got over 8,000 jurisdictions, 110,000 different polling places throughout all 50 states, and for the most part it's a state issue, not the federal government. And I know in the omnibus that was passed in March, there was over nearly $400 million that was granted for states to try to improve the security of the election infrastructure. I think one of the big concerns that comes along with those kinds of monies and funding is states and people know that as a general rule, wherever there's federal funding, there's always strings attached to it, and as a result, states are leery of getting involved in accepting that kind of funds. I know in my home state of Georgia, that's certainly been an issue. Mr. Krebs, I want to start with you. How has the Department of Homeland Security overcome these concerns of strings attached to some of the funding to try to help with election security?
So, thank you, sir. I can't speak specifically to any of the strings attached to the HAVA funding. I'd have to defer to Commissioner Hicks. But what we have done, DHS working with the EAC, working with, as Secretary Toulouse-Oliver said, through the Government Coordinating Council, we have worked to develop a set of guidance, of investment guidance on things that state and local election officials can do to improve their cybersecurity. And that information is based on a range of factors, including some of the risk and vulnerability assessments that we've conducted over the last year or so on state networks and on election networks. And so what we've done is across those 17 or so risk and vulnerability assessments, we've identified clear trends. There are a number of things that we're finding consistently across state networks that, frankly, we are finding across any other IT system. And so that's what bakes into the guidance and the recommendation, and we are there to help from a technical perspective, help states implement that guidance.
Well, let me ask you this. I know the Georgia Secretary of State applied for a security clearance with DHS to try to access some of the shared classified threat information. Do you know whether or not that has been approved yet?
So, sir, generally speaking, we don't discuss security clearance issues in public due to the operational security nature. That could make Secretary Kemp a target of foreign intelligence collection. Happy to follow up offline on that.
I would like to follow up on that,
Yes,
because, again, the integrity of state elections is at stake here. Ms. Oliver, let me ask you, or Mr. Hatch, whomever, regarding Homeland Security, how prepared are we, do you believe, going into this next election?
Thank you for the question. I believe that we always want to be more prepared. I feel fairly confident about where we are in New Mexico. I think secretaries of state across the country and chief election officials are taking this issue very seriously. We're as prepared as we can be, and more important than prepared, we're also ready to be able to respond to any issues as they arise.
I agree with Secretary Oliver. County election officials really have always had security first and foremost, and not just cybersecurity, but physical security. So we're prepared. We are grateful for the additional funding and the additional resources provided by the DHS and the EAC, as well as our states. It's a great partnership between the locals and the states. We enjoy sharing information and preparing together, and we feel confident. Of course, the attacks will come, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a breach somewhere. It just happens with that many localities and that much attention. The key is to be prepared and also to be resilient in the case of a breach.
Thank you very much. I yield back.
Gentleman yields